Hello everyone, my name is Saad Fazal and welcome to another video. This is our third course from the MECM series. Today we're going to work on deploying MECM clients. We're going to discuss multiple client deployment methods, and we're going to go over the installation process. So what I have done so far, I'm spinning up a brand new server, which is 2019, and I call it file server 02, installing updates. Right now it's on a work group, not joined the domain. Once it gets ready, we're gonna put it on domain and we'll install the clients and go over the client installation process. Before we go on the actual client deployment process, I want to go over multiple settings option, but let's get back to the OneNote file first here. So in SCCM or MECM, we have 6 to 7 ways to deploy a client to the workstation or servers. Obviously the easy one and the common one, I would say, like when you run into a troubleshooting and the client is not responding, then the manual one is the most useful method. You can put in the logon script, or there are some additional methods as well. So for example, those are not documented, but you can install client as a part of OS build or image. There's one more, is automatically install client site-wide. Oh, we're only going to discuss the Microsoft Intune one, not in this course, but not in this lecture. But when we get to the cloud management gateway lecture, we're going to discuss in that. Client push is the most easy one. You can just run through the wizard from the SCCM itself, and it's going to deploy the client. So that's the setup wizard. You have to run or go to assets and compliance, choose the workstation where you want to install client, and start push the client from the SCCM. Second method is the manual one we're going to discuss, and the third one is the Microsoft Intune one. Other than that, we have I've seen some people use group policies, some use software update points to push the clients. And this one is, if you are working in a lab, automatically install client site-wide is the most convenient one. You literally don't have to touch anything. As soon as the computer is joined to domain, it will automatically install the client. So we are now here in SCCM server. So I have the management point server that is required for clients to communicate. So I have two management point server. One is called file server 01, other one is my SCCM server itself. I have the MP role here. What I don't have is the fallback status point. So fallback status point is, if some reason the primary MP is not available for clients to contact, then they're gonna automatically fall back to the FSP fallback status point. So first thing first, what I'm gonna do, since I have the MP role installed on this, I'm gonna make it as a fallback status point as well. So I'll add the FSP role here. Next, fallback status point here. Monitor client, non-monitor client that they're unmonitored because they cannot communicate with their management point. Hit next. Okay, perfect. So now it's gonna install the fallback status point. While it's being installed in the background, I'm gonna show you a few things, but I made a quick change here. So under administration site, under client setting, this is one of the methods listed in my OneNote that enables site-wide client push installation was enabled. So I disable it on purpose to make sure my new server, which I'm going to make it a part of the domain, does not get declined automatically. I'm using my account that has its appropriate rights on the devices, um, and its installation properties. I'm not using much, just the site code. So that's pretty simple. That's one of the methods available to do that. You make sure you have it unchecked in case it's not your requirement. In the bottom, you have some self-explanatory radio buttons. For example, always install the client manager, configuration line client on domain control. If you have a concern with your domain controller, make sure you go with the second option. Okay. So I'm gonna hit OK. That's one of the settings area. Second area of the setting is hierarchy settings. So under the hierarchy settings, you see the use fallback status point, and I can use the fallback status point here since I'm using FSP. Client prefer to use management point specified in the boundary. So if you select this option, the client will always honor the boundary groups. Okay, so I'm not gonna check this since it's my lab. That's another setting here I wanted to highlight. Uh, Another setting is definitely the HTTPS setting, which is the communication piece. So if you go to the property of the site, and if you go to communication security, I am using HTTPS. I shouldn't be using this. Okay. And I'm gonna use the HTTPS only method now. So that's good. Hit apply. Okay. So HTTPS only because I have the PKI set up. Some of the client methods do not support HTTP only. For example, manual push does not support HTTP if you go through the documentation. So since my client will be on HTTPS on, I can show you the manual process now. So that's good. I'm gonna just quickly check the properties of my MP here, making sure they are honoring the parent settings. That's fine. Allow configuration, allow internet and intranet. Perfect. That's good. Looks good. Use site database. Gonna check the same setting to make sure they are matched for all. Allow configuration management gateway. I don't have to do it for this MP. That's okay. And yeah, looks good to me. Fallback status point properties. Yep, perfect. All right, so that's done here. There's not much we can see. So the next step is to check the client. So that was the settings from the server side. So now we check some settings from the client side, and then we're gonna hop on to the actual client installation process. Sorry, I just realized that I was on a mute and kept talking, but I was going over the client settings here. And then I just created a custom client policy here, and it's on a device policy. And then what I did here is um, I added some options, and the most important option for me for my lab is, I'm not going to repeat what I just said, but just to summarize, here is the client policy interval. In my lab, it's 3 minutes. I set to the minimum one, and for the production, generally, I have seen it's the 60-minute set. So that was from the client policy, and it's been deployed to the all systems. And one other setting here is under the hierarchy settings. So I showed you the FSP setting, forward sales point. The one is the client approval and conflicting records. So this is generally set to recommended, like automatically approve computers in trusted domains. That's good if you are working on a production environment, you don't want client to authorize. You can go with the manually approve each computer, or you can exclude some records over there. Another option is the client upgrade. So since it's my lab, not worried. I have a small number of computers, including servers and workstations. So I'm gonna go with upgrade all clients in the hierarchy and even minimize the days to 1. So I'm gonna hit apply here and okay. Alright, so let's start installing the clients. So I have the file server here that I already told you that I just built up. This server, let me see, let me put it on the top to define it. Checking the final Windows update before I make this server a member of my domain here. So I still see some pending updates. I'll pause the video, let the server update. Alright, so server is back up and running. Back in. I'll give it a name called file server 02. I'll put it on a domain. We'll give it a restart. Okay, log in. Log back in with the domain credentials. It's better to type domain name. Okay, first thing I would make sure that I have the firewall turned off. Sometimes these firewalls are evil. But you make sure you check with your security people before you make any adjustments in your production environment. So I'll just turn off the domain firewall here. Okay, server name is file server 02. It's a part of the domain, which is good. Let's see, firewall thing is finished. Still, I think server manager is still loading somehow. While it's doing its thing, let's go back to SCCM and run a discovery to see if we can pull this device in our SCCM database. File server, let me see if we have a file server. Yes, it's already here. So I'm gonna go over the methods to do. So first thing, let me show you where the client file is available in a CCM server. So I'm using a default directory, which is the program files, Microsoft Configuration Manager, and a folder called client. This is where you have all the client files here. So what I'm gonna do, I'll just copy this client file. I will make it as a shared file here. Let's share this folder. I'll share with everyone for now. Not an ideal thing to do, but it's my lab, so I can just share with everyone now. So we have a client folder shared. So just wanted to show you what does it have. I'm under the client folder. So CCM setup file is the primary file where this is the executable application where we will be installing we will be running to install the client. But if you're looking for MSI, for example, if you wanted to deploy through group policy or Microsoft Intune or any other third-party tool to install SCCM client, here you can find the MSI client. Don't run the MSI client as a client installation method manually. You can also find the x86 as well. So let's take a look here. So let's go to the devices. So I'm under the assets and compliance. So let me look for the server which does not have an agent installed because we turned off the automatic agent thing. And file server 02. So file server 02. Okay, here. We have to take a look as well, like why it's showing offline. So the first way to install the client is the manual way. I'm just gonna show you, but I'm not going to install it. But this is how you install the client. So you choose the server or the workstation, and we install client here. So right click on this and hit install client, hit next, and allow clients software to be installed automatically. You can check this box, that's okay. And this one if you have multiple primary sites. And when you hit next and then next and done, it's gonna show you the progress. And simply, very simple. I'm not gonna go over this process here. But before I install the manual process, I'm gonna show you a few things here. So looks like this Windows firewall thing is off. Since we are using the HTTPS method, we need to make sure we have a proper certificate in place before we deploy the client. So I'm under the new server. So this already got the certificate server 02. So that means we have the SCCM workstation authentication certificate in place. So there shouldn't be any problem anymore. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna install the manual client method. Okay, so just a second here. Alright, so I'm on the new server right now, which is file server 02. So if you remember, I shared a folder, which is SCCM client from the SCCM server. So let's go and see that folder here. This is my entire client folder. So what I would do, I would copy this thing locally. You don't have to, you can run it from the network part directly. So I'll just copy this client file here. Okay, I will bring up the command prompt. It is very important to make sure your user you're installing client must have the appropriate right to make changes on your computer. So I will go to CD client folder, and the file which we are concerned about is ccm setup.exe. So I'll do like ccm setup.exe. And the next thing I would give it a name like management point, and in our case it's SCCM 01 dot Azure Cloud local. I am very bad remembering the server names, so let me double check. SCCM 01, okay, good. SCCM 01 dot Azure Cloud local. And then what you have to do is you can either set this SMS site code auto, or you can provide the SMS site code. So SMS SITECODE, that's all one word in capital, and my site code is AZR. Since I already installed the fallback status point, so I'm gonna add another switch here. FSP equals to the fallback status point is what is it? It's a file. Let me ping that guy. Server 01. So that's the one. File server 01 dot Azure Cloud dot local, and hit enter. So when you hit enter, you will see some progress here. Let me see if we are able to see under details. Yeah, so I see the CCM setup file started running here under the task manager, under the details. Go to control panel. Shortly you will see the config manager have appearing under the control panel here. And on top of it, you should be able to see some activities being performed under Windows CCM setup. So if this folder is getting filled with a bunch of files like CCM files and other CAD files, it's a good sign. That means the client is in the right direction. Client installation is going in the right direction. So it's gonna take some time for the client to appear here. Let me get back to SCCM server. What is this? It's a file server 01. Let's see if I can update the device collection. All system. Date membership. So now it says client set to yes. Okay. It's turned from no to yes at least. It's doing something in the background. And the options got turned on as well. A lot of options got turned on, for example, like start remote. So that's a good sign. Oh, here it is. So now it got turned green. So I just hit refresh and it turned green, which is good. So we were able to successfully install the manual client installation. Let's get back to the server 02 real quick and see if the config man is appeared here. Small icon. It's gonna take some time, but apparently it will be available. So this is a command we used in my case. Here it is. So config manager. Certificate type PKI, co-management disable, intranet, that means like local, and it's reaching out to the Azure Cloud.local. Let's take a quick look why the file server 01 is not responding. First thing I would check is the config manager status. So PKI co-management capabilities, current intranet, summit ACR, looks good. Actions, for example, machine retrieval, and the user, okay, so the user retrieval, so it ran this. Okay, another thing what I would check here is if I have the right certificate available for this server. So I have the client workstation certificate available as well, so that's good. Last thing I would check is the firewall. Okay, so firewalls looks good, but I will just set it to recommended and we'll turn off the firewall anyway. Okay, perfect. Let's get back to SCCM server. Oh, perfect. So it got turned into, okay, so that was just a server glitch. And so we have successfully installed the clients on 02, and we we're able to troubleshoot, exactly troubleshoot, just restart and check few settings on the file 01 as well. So we look good here. Alright, so the last thing is I would do is to revert changes. Um, and then we're gonna wrap up this video. So I like this option for my lab, so I don't have to install manually and the client push method. So I'll enable this site-wide settings, and I will just not install my client on the domain control because my Hyper-V itself is a domain control. I don't want to mess with that. But I will enable this setting anyway. So hit apply. Okay. So I'm hoping that this video is helpful, and I'm happy to share my knowledge, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thanks.